Lights, camera, innovation. Walt Disney Studios chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform the movie-making process. Together, we kept a remote production hub in Hawaii in sync with a team in California to bring Lilo and Stitch to theaters this summer. This is picture-perfect collaboration. This is Walt Disney Studios with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
We're back on the Roger Stone Show here on the Red Apple Audio Network. Joining me now is Gary Franchi. Gary Franchi is the founder and face of the Next News Network, a true pioneer in the YouTube-based news channel. He has had over 2.25 million subscribers over the years and a major voice in American politics, someone who talks about things that nobody else will talk about. He's been recognized by the Chicago Tribune, the New York Times, the Guardian, the Huffington Post, Forbes, the Washington Post, Reuters, The Hill, and many others for his excellent political commentary. And yes, one of the first people in the country to predict that Donald J. Trump would be elected president in 2016, and then came back to predict that he would return to the White House. My good friend Gary Franchi joins us now on the Roger Stone Show. Gary, welcome.
Hey, Roger. It is great to be back with you here.
So we were talking in the previous segment about these preemptive pardons. It looked to me like the pardon of Hunter was both. It was strange in the way it was structured because, as Judge Napolitano just told us, it doesn't shield Joe Biden from potential prosecution for acts that happened during his vice presidency. James Comer of the House Republican Oversight Committee seems to have uncovered substantial cash flow through Hunter Biden to Joe and other members of the family. But now they're talking about a much broader pardon. They're talking about pardoning the criminals on the January 6th committee. We're talking about Liz Cheney. She suborned perjury. She went around the witnesses' lawyers to suggest questions for them. We're talking about the odious Adam Schiff, Jamie Raskin, Zoe Lofgren. That entire hearing, I can tell you firsthand, was a made-for-television production. They used AI to create the audio track on videos they showed that were allegedly me, but they didn't even match the videos that they leaked to CNN 2 days previously. They had a completely different visual component. The whole thing is outrageous. And of course, then they, as you know, destroy all the records before the incoming majority by the House. So, Gary, what do you think's going on with these pardons?
Well, Roger, I think it's indicative of this entire administration's criminality. And when you take a look at what they did with Hunter and, of course, Joe Biden and Karine Jean-Pierre for months on end, we're not going to pardon Hunter, and we believe in the rule of law, and, justice will prevail. Well, then they go ahead and they pardon Hunter Biden. And, of course, there's outrage all around. Now, I think that was more or less a test balloon for what we have been hearing has been happening in the back rooms of the White House. So when you have people like Dr. Anthony Fauci, okay, like Roger, I've been covering news and investigating news for decades. And it takes very little to shock me. And when I saw those headlines come across the wires, that was probably one of the most shocking moments that I'd ever seen. I mean, of course, there's so much to be shocked about, but when you talk about pardoning Dr. Anthony, I mean, okay, well, that's an admission. Like, anytime they're going to throw these pardons around, it's an admission that this person has committed some type of a crime. Now, of course, in your case, you know, your position, you were commuted, and you know, they did you wrong too. But with the pardons of Dr. Anthony Fauci, like, you know, just on the surface, just on the very surface, aside from, you know, the crimes against humanity, he has openly lied to Congress. I mean, we've seen the testimonies he gave to Senator Rand Paul. Rand Paul giving him multiple opportunities to retract his statements, and he refused to retract them with respect to the funding of the gain of the funding of the gain of function in Wuhan, and how they moved the virus testing out of Fort Detrick and moved it into Wuhan, you know, in defiance of Barack Obama's. Obama was the one who said, stop this, you know, don't do these testing anymore. It was under his administration back in 2014. They said, don't do this anymore. It's too dangerous. But they went ahead and went around him, and they sent it off to Wuhan. And then what happens next? You know, we had these massive pandemics, and of course that leads to so many other things. When they go ahead and talk about having these pardons, it's an admission that these people are guilty of a crime, and they're terrified. They know that Donald Trump's returning to the White House, and they know the hammer's about to drop. So it's like, it feels like this, like a crazy mafia movie where, like, the head of the party is getting ready to protect all of his, you know, his underbosses from being prosecuted. And that's exactly what we have here. And if they go ahead and do it, you know what? Fine. It's only going to prove everything that we've been saying about the criminality of this administration all along. So I challenge them. Go for it. Do it. You know what? Go pardon everybody, because we will have a list, and we will continue to drive that list home, and the American people will see just how criminally, you know, the criminal behavior that was, you know, executed by this administration. You know, it's disgusting, but I don't. With everything that we've seen from this administration, it just doesn't surprise me anymore that they would go this far. You know, Dr. Fauci, and go ahead.
Gary, it's very interesting. There's a piece in Politico last week that was really about this entrepreneur, Anthony Constantino, who has announced that he is running for the seat that will be vacated by Elise Stefanik, the congresswoman from upstate New York, who I think is among President Trump's very best appointees. I mean, she is a bulldog when it comes to judicial integrity and the rule of law. She's been very, very aggressive in trying to track the malfeasance and misconduct by the FBI. If you watch any of these sessions in which she questions Comey and watches him try to dance around giving an honest answer, it's extraordinary. But the story, which was about him, said that I'm supporting him for Congress. I'm just at this point doing so because he's a great guy and I have no professional capacity. I'm just supporting him because I like him. But it went on to say that I had been convicted of these various crimes, and it said, but Trump commuted Stone's sentence. Missing is the fact that I've received a full and unconditional presidential pardon. It's just not in the story. Also missing is the fact is that we learned through a lawsuit that the judge in my case withheld exculpatory evidence that absolutely proved my innocence. She refused to hand it over to my defense attorneys. That specifically was the unredacted report of Robert Mueller, in which he admitted that he actually hadn't found any evidence of Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or any other crime on my part. She wouldn't let my lawyers have that during the trial. It only came out after BuzzFeed sued the U.S. Justice Department, and then the DOJ released the information. Gary, you'll love this. At midnight, on the night of the 2020 election. Who puts out a press release on the busiest media day of the year? So I think you're absolutely right here. They fear not retribution, because it isn't retribution. It's a recalibration of the scales of justice. It is the end of the two-tiered justice system in which people who engaged in legitimate crimes of treason, are held accountable. It's not retribution, nor is it about revenge. It's about restoring balance, truth, and divine justice. You know, the universe always remembers every action, and the scales will always tip towards righteousness in the end. I see now that Dr. Peter Hortez, this is a guy who was a major cheerleader for the masks and the lockdowns and the COVID-19 vaccination. Suddenly he says that the day after Donald Trump will be inaugurated, January 21st, that multiple new viruses will be attacking the American public. Why would he say a thing like that?
That's another one that just, hit me in the face. Okay, we're heading into the next administration, and they have only so many days to hamstring this president, Donald Trump, as he returns. There's so many things that are going on. Of course, Biden is trying to make it so that Trump can't fire all of these bureaucrats. They're ramping up spending to hamstring the Doge committee as they go to do, line item deletion of all of the fat that is just strangling our government and taxpayers. And then on top of that, you got this lunatic going on MSNBC, and he's literally announcing that we're going to have all these new pandemics. Like, these people have no shame in how they are just telegraphing every move that they make. All right. The fact that he would go ahead and say this is just another point in, like, trying to make it more difficult for the president to do his job and execute the America First agenda. All right. We know that we all lived through that pandemic. It was horrible. At the beginning, we were terrified. And then all of a sudden, we realized that it was just a sham. The whole thing was a sham. The lockdowns were a sham. The mandates were a sham. 6 feet apart was a sham. And eventually it was just designed so that they could have another excuse for mail-in voting and steal the election, one thing after another. So the fact that this guy's coming out and telegraphing this is very concerning. I mean, okay, let's take it back for a minute. Now, if you remember the video that we played it ad nauseum on our channel before, we had to delete a bunch of that content due to YouTube guidelines. But even Fauci announced that there was going to be a pandemic during the Trump administration. He announced it beforehand. So it wouldn't surprise me if they try to do something else to make it more difficult for President Trump to execute his agenda. And the fact that this guy's going out and saying it publicly is very concerning. And it's just something we all need to keep on our radar. We lived through the last pandemic. We've learned from it. And we're just not going to let these people, scare us into submission again. We're smarter. We're wiser. And, I appreciate him coming out and saying that, because now it's on our radar and now we can look for it. So.
If you're just tuning in, people, we are talking to Gary Franchi, the founder and chief commentator at the Next News Network, and we'll be right back.
Now, it's time for Protecting Your Future, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Here's Roger Stone.
The globalist bureaucrats burrowed deep inside our government have not abandoned the idea of doing away with paper money and moving to some kind of digital currency in which they would give you a government-approved credit card to pay for your groceries, your gas, or anything else, meaning they would control your money. the wild spending in Washington is going to stop eventually under the leadership of Donald Trump, but that won't happen tomorrow, and that challenges your retirement. That's why thousands of people are diversifying their retirement savings, their IRA, their 401k, their nest egg by turning to precious gold and silver metals. Folks I trust to do that are those at the Colonial Metals Group. And gold has always seen us through every financial crisis in our history. It only makes sense. To find out more, go to freegoldguide.com, freegoldguide.com. The experienced folks at the Colonials Metals Group can show you how to protect yourself and your retirement. For your own future, for your own peace of mind, go to freegoldguide.com and find out more.
This is the Roger Stone Show.
This episode is brought to you by Factor. Optimize your nutrition this year with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from 40 weekly options across 8 dietary preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Eat smarter at factormeals.com/listen50 and use code listen50 for 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factormeals.com/listen50, code listen50. T's and C's apply.
Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the U.S. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply. This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump.
They went after a guy named Roger Stone, who's sitting in the office. And I'll say this in front of Roger, he's no baby. And right now, he's cleaner than anybody in this place. No, they treated him very unfairly.
All of these presidents relied on one man to secure their seat in the Oval Office. That man is Roger Stone.
Roger Stone.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group. Now, here's Roger Stone.
When we're back, we're talking to Gary Franchi, the founder and chief commentator on the Next News Network. Gary, I think probably every American in the country has now seen this, the shocking broad daylight assassination of the head of the United Healthcare company on the streets of New York. I've watched that video over and over and over again. I have a friend who said, wow, they denied several of my claims for a herniated disc, but I think this is a little excessive. What do you think is behind this? I mean, a murder in broad daylight with the video cameras running. I have a hard time understanding why this happened. Thoughts?
You know, I was pretty shocked when I saw that too. And it was, I hate insurance companies. I hate them with a passion. And I think there's a lot of enemies that this healthcare company has created over the years. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's a disgruntled customer. I mean, considering what was inscribed on those bullets, it sounds like it was that, but it could also be designed to look like it was a disgruntled customer. I mean, apparently there were some investigations that were going on with the Department of Justice, insider trading, all these different things were happening. Maybe he was going to talk. Maybe he was going to spill the beans on some of his fellow employees in the executive part of the company. I think there's also what's interesting is the timing of this entire hit. Okay, it was a company meeting about to take place. The assassin laid in wait for him. They knew his schedule. They knew where he was going to be. Now, a random customer, how are they going to find out where the CEO of United Healthcare is going to be meeting, at 8 o'clock in the morning in New York for a company meeting? Is that publicly posted somewhere? I don't know. That's what leads me to think that this is more of an inside job. Somebody inside the company wanted this guy silenced because of these DOJ investigations, insider trading, and then there's this weird Nancy Pelosi connection. I'm not saying she has anything to do with this, but apparently there was some kind of a hack that took place with the company, and she had some inside information allegedly that allowed her to make some trades right before the company that was to investigate the hack. So there's a weird Pelosi connection here. So I think we're going to wait and see and find out a lot more. But what's really beautiful is watching how people on X, Elon Musk platform, are doing the groundwork. I mean, they found out where this guy's bike was. They used a city bike to track him through. All the different people who were tracking facial recognition on these video cameras. So my initial thoughts are, I personally think this is an inside job done by somebody in the company who wanted them shut up about these investigations about to come out.
Still, it is extraordinarily shocking. All right, I'm afraid we have to leave it there. Gary Franchi of the Next News Network. Where can folks see your great work, Gary?
Just look us up on YouTube, Next News Network. We're also on X, Next News Network. You can find us on those platforms, and, just drop a line in the chat room. We'll be live tonight, and hope to see everybody there.
All right, coming up next on the Roger Stone Show, Patrick Bet-David of Valuetainment joins us. So whatever you do, don't touch that dial.
You can't sleep, you can't eat, there's no doubt.